The hidden protocol behind the Spanish crown. What if I told you that being a member of the Spanish royal family is not simply about wearing a crown, attending glamorous events, and standing in front of cameras? Behind every handshake, every entrance, every outfit, and even the way a royal stands beside another person, there can be a world of protocol. And for Princess Leonor, Spain's future queen, understanding that world is becoming more important than ever. Because when you are born into a monarchy, there are rules you don't always see. Some are written. Some are based on centuries of tradition, and others are simply understood. Today we're going behind the scenes to explore the hidden protocol behind the Spanish crown, the traditions, expectations, and unwritten rules that help shape Spain's royal image. And stay until the end because one of the most fascinating parts of royal protocol is how much of it happens without the public even noticing. What exactly is royal protocol? Royal protocol is essentially a system of formal rules and conventions that guides how members of a royal family behave during official occasions. It can involve everything from ceremonies and state visits to introductions, seating arrangements, formal greetings, dress expectations, and interactions with foreign dignitaries. But here's the important part. Protocol isn't necessarily about making someone look superior. In modern constitutional monarchies like Spain, protocol often exists to communicate respect, continuity, and institutional roles. Every detail can send a message. Who arrives first? Who welcomes the guest? Who stands where? Who speaks? Who sits beside whom? During an ordinary family event, these details might seem meaningless. At a state ceremony, they can become extremely important. That's because a royal appearance isn't just a personal moment. It can represent the Spanish state. And that's where the difference between private life and royal duty becomes very clear. The crown is an institution. One of the biggest things to understand about the Spanish monarchy is that the crown is not simply a family. It is also a constitutional institution. Spain is a parliamentary constitutional monarchy, and the constitution defines the king's role as head of state. That means official royal appearances often have a purpose beyond family publicity. King Felipe VI isn't simply attending an event as a private individual. He may be representing Spain. And when Queen Letizia, Princess Leonor, or other members of the family appear at certain official engagements, their presence can also contribute to the public image of the monarchy. This explains why royal protocol can seem so precise. A royal event is carefully planned because the people involved aren't merely representing themselves. They are representing an institution that has existed in different forms for centuries. And that brings us to Princess Leonor, because her future role makes protocol especially important. Princess Leonor and the weight of preparation. Princess Leonor is the heir apparent to the Spanish throne. That means her preparation is not limited to traditional academic education. She has also undertaken military training, constitutional education, languages, and public duties. Why? Because becoming queen is not simply about inheriting a title. It requires understanding how the institution works. Imagine entering a room filled with heads of state, diplomats, military leaders, and government officials. Knowing what to say is important, but knowing when to speak, when to listen, how to greet someone, and how to conduct yourself can be just as important. Leonor's public appearances therefore offer something fascinating to observe. Her evolution isn't only about growing older. It's about gradually becoming more comfortable with the responsibilities attached to her future position. And the more senior her role becomes, the more closely the public will watch her. The invisible rules of royal events. Now let's talk about something viewers often miss. At major royal events, protocol can determine the order and structure of what happens. For example, during formal ceremonies, seating arrangements may reflect official positions and precedents. Guests can be placed according to diplomatic or institutional importance. Introductions can follow a planned sequence. And ceremonial entrances and departures can also be carefully organized. To the audience watching on television, everything may look completely natural. But that smoothness is often the result of preparation. The goal is actually to make protocol almost invisible. Think about a professional stage performance. When you watch an actor walk onto a stage at exactly the right moment, you don't think about the dozens of rehearsals behind it. Royal ceremonies can work in a similar way. The better the protocol is executed, the less you notice it. And that is what makes it so fascinating. The language of greetings. One of the most visible aspects of protocol is how royals greet people. A handshake, a formal introduction, a bow or curtsy in certain circumstances, a kiss on the cheek in more informal cultural settings. The appropriate greeting can depend on the person, the occasion, and the cultural context. When Spanish royals meet foreign monarchs or senior officials, cultural awareness becomes particularly important. A royal may be expected to understand not only Spanish customs but also the traditions of other countries. That's one reason international royal events are so interesting. You can see different traditions meeting in a single room. And sometimes the smallest gesture becomes a major talking point online. A few seconds of interaction can generate thousands of comments. But what looks spontaneous may actually be guided by etiquette that has been learned over many years. Dress is part of the message. Royal protocol doesn't mean that every outfit is dictated by a strict rulebook. But clothing can still communicate a great deal. The occasion matters. A military ceremony requires a very different approach from a state banquet. A national celebration is different from a university visit. A diplomatic event is different from a casual public engagement. For Princess Leonor, clothing can also reflect the seriousness of the occasion. Her military uniform, for example, isn't simply a fashion choice. It represents her military training and her responsibilities as heir to the crown. Meanwhile, formal civilian clothing can communicate professionalism and respect for an official setting. This is why royal fashion attracts so much attention. People aren't only looking at the clothes, they're often trying to understand the message behind them. The royal family and public behavior. Perhaps one of the most difficult aspects of royal life is that ordinary behavior can become public. For most people, a facial expression or awkward moment disappears almost immediately. For a royal, it can become a photograph shared around the world. That creates an unusual pressure. Members of the Spanish royal family have to balance natural human behavior with the expectations attached to their public roles. They can smile. They can laugh. They can show emotion. But during official occasions, they are also expected to maintain a certain level of composure. This doesn't mean they cannot be themselves. In fact, modern royal families often try to appear more relatable. But there is still a line between personal life and official duty. And learning where that line exists is part of becoming a successful modern royal. The most powerful protocol rule. Knowing the role. Perhaps the most important principle behind royal protocol is understanding your role. The king is the reigning monarch. The Princess of Asturias is the heir apparent. Other members of the family have different positions and responsibilities. Those distinctions matter. Royal protocol helps make those roles visible without requiring someone to explain them every time. And this is particularly important for Leonor. She isn't simply another member of the Spanish royal family. She is being prepared for a future in which every decision, appearance, and speech could carry greater institutional significance. That is why her transformation will be fascinating to watch. Today, people may focus on her education, fashion, military training, or public appearances. But over time, the bigger story will be how she develops the confidence and judgment required for the crown. The modern crown is changing. But here's where things become even more interesting. Royal protocol isn't frozen in the past. It evolves. The Spanish monarchy operates in a modern democratic society. That means the royal family has to balance tradition with changing public expectations. People increasingly expect transparency, professionalism, accessibility, and relevance. At the same time, royal ceremonies still rely on centuries-old traditions. The challenge is finding the balance. Too much tradition can make an institution appear disconnected. Too little tradition can weaken the symbolism that gives the monarchy part of its identity. And Princess Leonor will eventually inherit that challenge. Her generation may define what the Spanish crown looks like in the decades ahead. The details you don't see. So the next time you watch the Spanish royal family at an official ceremony, look beyond the obvious. Don't just look at the crown, the uniforms, or the glamorous photographs. Watch the entrances. Watch who greets whom. Notice the seating. Look at the clothing. Listen to the speeches. Observe how the family interacts with officials and members of the public. Because behind those seemingly simple moments is a complex system of tradition, preparation, diplomacy, and responsibility. And perhaps that is the biggest secret of royal protocol. The most successful protocol is the protocol you barely notice. The Spanish crown may look glamorous from the outside, but behind the palace doors is a world of expectations that few people ever experience. For King Felipe VI, protocol is part of his responsibility as Spain's head of state. For Queen Letizia, it is part of navigating life as a modern queen. And for Princess Leonor, it represents something even bigger. It is preparation for a future that could eventually place the crown on her shoulders. So here's the question. Do you think Princess Leonor will modernize the traditions of the Spanish crown, or will she preserve them exactly as they are? Tell me your opinion in the comments. And if you enjoyed discovering the hidden world behind the Spanish monarchy, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and stay with us for more stories about Princess Leonor, Queen Letizia, King Felipe VI, and the future of the Spanish crown. Because behind every royal moment, there is a story, and we're here to uncover it.